The Annapurna Upanishad, presented by Swayam Prakash Sharma, Part 7. This is the seventh and concluding part of the Upanishad, which contains verses 80 to 120 of chapter 5. The sage Ribhu describes the various planes that lead to liberation and concludes his discourse. The Upanishad. The sage Ribhu continues with his discourse. In the state of concentration, where a person is harmonized with the Supreme, one sees no beings, then one is the alone. The first plane generates the desire for liberation. This plane is marked by the practice of discipline and by detachment, which comes about due to intimacy with the Shastras or scriptures and due to the company of holy people. The second plane is marked by investigation. The third plane is marked by contemplation with all its accessories. The fourth plane is the solvent plane, as it is here that all the latent impressions dissolve. The fifth plane is the rapturous. It is purely cognitive. This is the station of the liberated in life, who is, as it were, half awake and half asleep. The sixth plane is non cognitive. It is a station that is similar to deep sleep. It has the nature of pure and massive bliss. The seventh plane is marked by equability, by utter and complete purity, and by tenderness. It is indeed unqualified liberation, the quiescent, the totally peaceful, the totally inactive fourth state. The transcendent state beyond the fourth, nirvana, in its essence, is the transcendent and developed seventh plane. This does not come within the purview of mortals. The first three planes constitute only the waking life. The fourth plane is called the dream state, where the world is regrettably dreamlike, where the world is like a dream. The fifth plane that conforms to pure and massive bliss is styled deep sleep. In contrast, the sixth plane, which is non cognitive, is named the fourth state. The most excellent seventh plane is the state beyond the fourth, that is beyond the range of mind and words, and which is identified with a self luminous being, that is identified with Brahm. If, because of the withdrawal of the organs of cognition into one's own self, no object is perceived, then one is liberated indeed, without a doubt, by that mighty sameness of vision. I do not die. I do not live. Being predominantly non existent, I am not existent either. I am nothing but spirit. I am nothing but Atma. Thinking like this, the intelligent Jivan Mukt does not sorrow. I am stainless. I am unaging and unattached. All my latent impressions have been tranquilized. I am impartite, indivisible. I am the veritable spirit sky. I am the veritable Atma sky. Thinking like this, he does not sorrow. Rid of the I sense, rid of the sense of ego, pure, awake, unaging, immortal. I am peaceful. All appearances have been quietened for me. Thinking in this way, he does not sorrow. I am one with Him, the one God, who dwells at the tips of grass, who dwells in the sky, who dwells in the sun, who dwells in man, who dwells in the mountains, and who dwells in the gods. Thinking like this, he does not sorrow. Discard all mental constructions about objects. Rise well above them and dwell in the thought, I am the free, I am the supreme Brahm that remains. Beyond the purview of words, rid of the predicament of hankering after objects, unagitated even by the flavor of climatic bliss, he delights in the self. He delights in the Atma by himself. Renouncing all actions, always content, independent, he is not stained. He is not touched by virtue or by sin or by anything else. Just as a mirror is not stained, is not tainted by its reflections, in the same way, the knower is not stained or affected by the fruits of his actions. He moves about freely among the masses. When his body is tortured, he does not know pain. When his body is tortured, he does not know pain, nor does he feel any pleasure. When he is honored, it is as if these acts were not directed at him, but at his reflections. He is beyond praise and change. He does not recognize worship, nor does he recognize the object of worship. He is at once conforming and indifferent to all codes of etiquette. That is, he conforms to all codes of etiquette, yet at the same time, he is indifferent to them. He may give up his body either in a holy spot or in the hut of an eater of dog's flesh. Once knowledge is won, he becomes a jnani. He becomes a knower of Brahm, free from all latent impressions of karma. Know that the cause of bondage is mental construction. Therefore, give up that mental construction. Also know that liberation comes through the absence of mental constructions. Therefore, practice the giving up of mental constructions intelligently. In the context of objects, sense organs, and their content, always be wary, perpetually and steadily. Avoid states of mental construction. Do not succumb to objects. Also, do not identify yourself with your sense organs. Renounce all constructions and identify with what remains. If anything pleases you, then know that you are in a state of bondage. Then know that you are in empirical life. If, on the other hand, nothing pleases you, then know that you are liberated here for sure. In the multitude of objects, moving and stationary, extending from grass, etc., up to living bodies, let there be nothing that gives you pleasure. There should be nothing here that should give you any pleasure. In the absence of the I sense, in the absence of the sense of ego and its negation, at once existent and non-existent, what remains unattached, what remains the self same, the superlatively pure and steadfast, is called the fourth. That superlatively pure sameness, the peaceful, inactive, and status of liberation in life. The state of the spectator is in empirical usage, and it is called the fourth state. This is neither wakefulness nor is it dream, for here in this state there is no room for mental constructions. This is not the state of deep sleep either, for no inertness is involved in this state. This world as it is dissolved, and then it is the fourth state for those who are tranquilized, for those who have become tranquil and who are rightly awakened. For the non awakened, however, the world stands changeless as it is, in all its plurality. When the aspect of sense is given up, when equability or equanimity dominates and the mind disintegrates, then the fourth state comes on. The rejection of the objective manifold is the doctrine of the Shastras or the scriptures setting forth the spirit of the Atma. To achieve the Atma, it is necessary to reject the objective manifold. This is the doctrine of the Shastras. Here in the fourth state, there is no Vidya, there is no Avidya, and there is no Maya either. This is the tranquil Brahm, unfatigued. One becomes inevitably tranquil in the clear sky of the spirit, in the clear sky of the Atma known as Brahm, whose essence is quietude and equability, and which shines brightly with all the powers. O sinless one, give up everything and be wedded to an immense silence, plunged into nirvana, lifted above all reasoning and rationalization, with the mind attenuated and the intellect calmed down. With the mind made tranquil, abide in the self, abide in the Atma, like one who is dumb, blind, and deaf, always turned inwards, always looking within yourself, superlatively pure, brimming with inner wisdom. O twice born, perform all your acts, do all your actions remaining in deep slumber in the state of wakefulness itself. Renounce everything internally and act externally as the occasion arises. The mind being in existence and active, this alone is suffering. And the giving up of the mind alone is joy. Therefore, through the non-recognition of objects, attenuate or reduce the mind in the sky of the spirit. He always sees the beautiful and the ugly, as if he sees a stone. He remains like a stone, irremovable. Thus, through one's own effort, is empirical existence conquered. What is hidden in the Vedanta and what was taught in bygone ages, that should not be offered to one who is not established in peace, nor should it be given to one who is not a son or a daughter or a pupil. Whosoever studies the Annapurna Upanishad with the blessing of one's teacher, he becomes a Jivan Mukt, and he becomes by himself altogether Brahm. Yes, he becomes by himself altogether Brahm. This is the Upanishad. This concludes the Annapurna Upanishad of 7 parts. Om Shanti, 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 Om.